Um, well, it's what we've seen from the Prime Minister today, the first sense of a broader new look for the Conservative Party. Ruth Davidson's the leader of the party in Scotland. She joins us now from Edinburgh. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Hi, Evan.
Good to talk to you. You support this, don't you? Because you, I think, in a speech in May, were basically saying this is what the party needs to do, right?
Well, what had happened, it had become apparent that there was a discussion that was going on at a senior level within the Conservative Party. I was doing a big speech in the University of Glasgow, and I wanted to lay out where I was on this and where the Scottish Party was on this. And, you know, I'm like Nick Bowles, I'm one of these people that's had their life saved by the NHS. They not only saved my life when I was 5 and I got run over by a truck, they saved my legs. I spent a lot of my childhood in and out of hospital, and then 20 years later, because I'm pretty clumsy, I broke my back in several places and they put me back together again a second time. So, you know, I'm one of these people that has relied on it throughout my entire life as well. And I do think that there is a special case when it comes to health funding. I think it's an article of faith in this country. I think it's damn near a national religion in this country.
But do you agree with Nick Bowles in that piece who said this is a first step and the party should have more flexibility? Obviously can't do everything, but you'd expect this to go a bit further. At least on social care, you'd expect a bit more, right?
Well, we've got a different way of funding social care in Scotland that's devolved, so I don't really want to stray into that territory, if that's all right. But what I would say is, we've always said that we needed, after the crash, we came in 2010 as a government, we needed to get the borrowing, the debt under control. When we did that, then we would be able to look at these spending priorities. We're now bringing down debt as a proportion of GDP. We've got these fiscal rules in place, we're sticking to it, and now is the time to look at our spending priorities. And the Prime Minister today could not have been clearer that the NHS is her #1 spending priority. That's why there's this cash injection.
OK. You're a very plain-speaking politician. Would you say...
So they say.
Would you say austerity, when you look back over the last 8 years, that austerity, the goal of getting the budget deficit down, did that put too much weight on spending cuts and not quite enough weight on the tax side of the burden?
Well, I think we had to balance it. We also had to make sure that we didn't shrink our economy, and that's why corporation tax came down. That's why the personal allowance, so income tax, what you could earn before you started paying it, went up. And the reason that this is important, and I think sometimes we lose this part, is that if we didn't do that, we would be charging our children for what we're paying for now, and that's not fair.
You could have done more of it through raising taxes rather than cutting spending. What it looks like has happened is you cut spending a bit too far, so now you're saying, oh, we need to put taxes up, and you don't accept that. OK.
No, I don't accept that. And I'll tell you why I don't accept that, because you've also got to look at growth rate. So in the last 8 years, from 2010, the naysayers that came out, the Danny Blanchflowers of this world that said we're going to have 4 million unemployed, people that said that we would have the lowest growth rates during this time, they were all proved wrong. Why? Because we needed to be able to show the country that we were open for business. We needed to show companies to come and invest here. We've managed to grow employment in that time. It's now the highest for nearly 40 years. And the thing is, if you don't do that, if you don't have a healthy economy, you have less money for public services. So it is about a balance, but there was always going to come a time where the hard yards have been done. And I pay absolute tribute to the people of the United Kingdom for tightening their belts, because that's what saw us through those hard yards. And now is the time to look at those spending priorities.
Just a quick one. I'm talking about the future of your party, and this is quite a big change of direction. Often they say you're the future of the Conservative Party. People say. 3 weeks ago, the papers were full of stories about you and Michael Gove. You had a pact. Gove was going to be PM, and then you'd do it afterwards. The new icon, Tina Turner, some of the papers said. How's that pact with Michael Gove going? Because not all his pacts have ended terribly well.
Well, there wasn't a pact, and I did like a fantastic piece that was written in the Times that was saying that the reason that I was helping to launch this think tank, because I was asked to speak at it, Michael Gove was asked to speak, was because I was putting together a run for my next big job, which would be Prime Minister, which is nonsense. The big job that I was about to announce was that I'm about to become a mother. So that shows you what you can take as a pinch of salt when it comes to the UK press. But I've got one thing to say on the health issue, if I may, Evan, before we move on, is that we've seen already a 10.9% increase in health spending over the last 8 years in England. We've seen less than half that in Scotland. The SNP have not passed on health consequentials. We in Scotland, the Tory party in Scotland, are demanding that the £2 billion that's going to come to Scotland as part of this injection we've seen down south announced by the Prime Minister must be spent on health.
I mean, they'll say you'll always support a tax increase for the UK, but you'll never vote for a tax increase in Scotland. But let's not get into that.
Well, we've got growth rates that are less than half of the rest of the UK, and putting ourselves at a competitive disadvantage doesn't increase those growth rates. And again, that leaves you with less money for public services.
Quick one on Brexit. I'm not going to ask you about whether there's a Brexit dividend, because we know, as a matter of fact, the government doesn't believe there's one. So there's no point in arguing about that. I want to ask you about the meaningful vote, because it's a big issue, whether the Commons should support the Lords and give MPs, you know, when the Brexit deal comes to fruition, what's called a meaningful vote on it. Dominic Grieve, are you on his side in all of this? It's a huge issue in the Commons at the moment. The Dominic Grieve side or the government side?
Well, the Prime Minister has said there will be a vote in the House of Commons. I agree with that. When it comes to all the questions that are flying around about another vote for the public, another vote in all of these different places, my issue with referenda, and I've fought two now, not one like the rest of the UK,
I didn't ask you about the referendum.
You don't get to rerun it just because you don't like the answer.
I asked you about Dominic
I was on the wrong side. I was on the wrong side of this. I agree with it. I lost.
I'm asking about Dominic Grieve's amendment. Would you vote for his amendment, or would you vote for the government one?
I have every respect for Dominic Grieve, but I would not vote for his amendment.
Ruth Davidson, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks.